Yes, my friends, you are not looking at a ghost or a thing. We're back to officially. Uh, it may be a semi-weekly thing and maybe a bi-weekly thing, but we are back. No more hypothetical crossovers, at least for a while. Probably the next time when we do one is probably not going to be for months. Well, they are fun. It also takes a lot of energy just to figure out, hey, uh, how do we connect? How do we connect this storyline with this character and make it into a fun aspect? But let's go back to the
Fun
brass
time.
tacks. Huh?
Fun
What'd you
fun
say?
time.
Yes, quite a fun time. But let's go back to the brass
So
tacks
they're
of
fun?
yes, they are fun. But let's go back to the brass tacks of being of the concept of downstage and talking about, you know, stuff that matters a lot to us as actors. And unfortunately, it's weird because when I originally took off from podcasting, and I'll be real with all of you, uh, I had lost my mother. She passed away back in June of this year. She had just gone to the hospital to get her uh, knee checked up and whatnot, and then she catches COVID in the hospital. It's a long story, but yeah. And
I'm
I
so
really didn't
sorry.
want to do. Thank you. And I really didn't want to do anything outside of just being myself over that summer and just like not worrying about shit happening in movies or TV or whatever. Just like have a nice normal summer. And sure enough, the summer just comes came and went like anything else. And and it's weird because what really led me back into wanting to talk about not cult time, I mean, well, cult time too, but not as what really led me back into downstage was the passing. Essentially, and the first topic is that I want to talk about is the passings of not only Kevin Conroy but the passing of Jason David Frank, both legends in the field and both essentially childhood icons of not only people who grew up in the 1990s, but probably people who just grew up with these recent newer fans, or probably people who grew up with maybe the Justice League or the Batman Arkham games, or if you were a Power Rangers fan, you grew up with watching maybe another Power Ranger season that happened to have Tommy like come apart as a mentor, or you happen to know of the character from like comics or something like that too. And it's hard to discuss about death and grieving, especially if it's the loss of a loved one. But I think it's a lot more difficult when it's an actor or entertainer, whatever, that you really looked up to as a kid. I remember maybe a few years ago when Stan Lee passed away. I was like it hit me, but it didn't really hit me because it was like I'm so used to seeing Stan Lee everywhere. It was like when he did pass, it was it was like almost like it was only a matter of time before he would pass because people were like, oh, he's in his last years or something like that, and he's becoming a lot more older. He's becoming a lot more advanced in age. He's not doing many more cameos. They're trying to fill in as many cameos as he can within the span of like a span of time. So you kind of like knew it was like when he did pass away, it would be like heartbreaking, but you kind of like expected it to happen because they were kind of like preparing us for the worst. With Kevin Conroy, you know, this is a voice that did a character that I practically grew up with. The same with Jason David Frank, where it's like this is a character that I literally grew up with because not only was Conroy's Batman so synonymous with with his voice and betrayal, but the same thing with Frank's Tommy, where it's like you could not remember a time where people even watching people who even haven't watched Power Rangers in years would just watch an old clip of just Tommy being evil or something like that and just going, yeah, look at this guy. This guy literally just comes into the Power Rangers thing, wrecks up their shit, and then leaves. No explanation. Like that's Tom. That's originally how Tommy Oliver was, and then people would always go about how Conroy's Batman was just so vocal in his humanity because like you could just tell when he was playing Bruce Wayne and when he was playing Batman, it was like the inflections he would have and all that stuff. And it's like, but when you are missing that and when you are messing when you are missing people, it's like it hits you a lot more harder. Conroy passes away from cancer, and it's a lot more harder because I've had people in my family who have died of cancer or who were cancer survivors. Uh, you know, it, Frank passed away because he was suffering from depression, and I've suffered from some bouts of depression, especially from my mother's passing, where it's like it wasn't that severe, but there are people who have depression and it really affects them. And sometimes they are the brightest people and the smartest people, and you don't really see it until it's probably too late. And
Hmm.
yeah, like these two deaths like really, really hit me hard, especially, hearing about, Conroy's passing, and then a few like not even a week later, I hear news like of like Jason David Frank having killed himself or passed away. It was like I'm like, and I was like, please don't let that be true. And then I wake up earlier the next morning and read, and it's like, oh, he is dead at the age of 49. And it's like, and it's weird. It's like, and I go back to this point before. It's like you have these two actors who are very synonymous with a person's childhood. You know, uh, like I said before, my childhood was literally watching the original Power Rangers, and my childhood was watching the original Batman that was on Fox Kids. Or oh yeah, Fox Kids or 11 or Channel 11 Kids, where it was. And Saturday mornings were always that joy to watch because these were just two actors who always gave it all with their uh, with their all. So yeah, but that's the reason why I came back because uh, one when you are mourning someone, you really do need to come back and hit that grief in the face, and seeing people in grieving not only Conroy's passing but especially Frank's passing, because the amount of people who have sent their love and support to Frank and his passing, it's amazing to see, especially the circumstances of what happened. And I think what I will say is to end my thought is that to those who are suffering, just know you are loved and you are supported, and there will always be someone to help you out. Yeah, so that's the reason
Very well
why.
said.
Thank you, and that's the reason why I came back. I mean, I could have kept on not doing cult time or downstage, on average, but there to to use a movie scene about this, there's a great scene or great thing at the end of Spider-Man 2, not Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Peter Parker, he's it's been months and probably a year or so since Gwen Stacy's death. They don't really say how long he's been grieving, but he's been grieving for a while. And he sees an old video of Gwen during her like battle with Centurion stuff at the high school, and it gives him the resolve to go back into being Spider-Man. And then you see how happy he is as being a Spider-Man. And for me, it was the resolve of this is something I love doing. I love talking about stupid shit happening in entertainment news. It's like, oh wow, man, it's like, oh man, what happened now? Okay, hey, we got a good father, we got Cannon father for the week now. Or then there'll be like some serious topics where I'm like, I want to talk about something. Yeah, and it really just like saying, hey, maybe it is a time for me to come back and actually express my thoughts on some stuff and just be like, hey, I may have left because I needed some time to heal, but there are places for me to be because they need to, yeah, I just need to get back into the swing of things. So, sorry if I took essentially like a 5 minute little speech there, but hey,
No, it's perfectly understandable. And to kind of piggyback off that too, it's like, yeah, it's like, God, it's like it takes a lot of your mind to kind of process that like these like iconic actors who voiced and played these very iconic characters. It's like one day it's like, you wake up and it's like, oh wow, they're gone. Like it almost kind of throws you through a loop for a second. Then it's like honestly, it just makes you want to appreciate like all that amazing work they did in their careers.
And
Like
mhm.
and like also even some of their obscure stuff too. Like for instance, with Jason David Frank, he did a lot of stuff with this YouTube channel called Superpower Beatdown, and it's like you can see there's just that they have so much passion for what they do. Like you can see he still has so much passion for like the Power Ranger character, just for just acting in general, and it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see, I guess, a lot of things kind of just resurface, like as far as their
Mhm.
work. So it is nice to kind of see that in memoriam, and especially with Kevin Conroy, and actually Jason, um, uh, Jason David, right? That's his name, Jason.
Jason David
Yeah,
Frank.
Jason. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if I should say call him by his first name or say the full name, but yes, Kevin Carwood and Jason David Frank. It's been nice to kind of like go online and see like all this tribute to them, like even like original artwork, just like made in the last couple of days and hours. So I think that's really nice, and it just goes to show, especially for Jason, that like he was always loved and appreciated, and the taking of his own life probably wasn't, if he, if someone was just there for him, maybe there was, but it's a hard topic to talk about in general when it comes to that kind of thing. But nonetheless, I think both of them, Kevin and Jason, left like a amazing legacy of their work, and if anything, it can only inspire us to want to do the same.
yeah.
Exactly.
Uh, uh,
Yep.
and it kind
Kevin Conroy, you will forever be Vengeance, the Knight, the Batman.
and
And
Yes.
Jason David Frank, it's Morphin Time.
mhm. And again, going into more about health and it really goes into cherishing the moments you have, especially with people right now, because in a matter of moments or a blink of an eye, there's someone that you know and love could just be taken away from you, even when you don't have like the chance to say goodbye to them. Uh, Case in point, uh, falling back on the health notion. Uh, Chris Hemsworth in his new show recently came out as saying that he is not only after the release of his new show, I should say, he came out saying he is stepping away from acting for a while because they found out that he is genetically uh, compromised, like his genes are genetically compromised to having the Alzheimer's Alzheimer's syndrome or yeah syndrome Alzheimer's later in life because of his parents and
It just pronounced Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's there we
All
go.
Alzheimer's is a Z.
Al-
Granted, you can't say it. Yeah, it does sound like old timer, like a old person, but it's
Yeah,
Alzheimer's. Yeah, yeah,
Alzheimer. Yeah. Anyway,
Say
yeah.
blame whatever movie that mispronounced it and got it started.
yeah. Like people say, like the people, like people have been saying, uh, Asperger's syndrome. It sounds like Asperger's instead of it being Asperger's.
That's very true.
Mhm.
But
Or Asperger's.
yeah, uh, but yeah, Helmsworth said he has to essentially take some time off from acting because of him finding out that he basically has Alzheimer's, and it basically goes to show you what I just said before. It was like you have to cherish everything you have right now, where it's just like you have the notion of being around the people you love, and then being around uh, and then something happens like, oh, being in the notion about the people you love, and then boom, something happens, and then you have a disease that could essentially cripple you later in life. And uh, it's definitely one of those things where it's just like I'm at a loss for words, because Helmsworth looked like he was in, like, he's in his pinnacle peak career, not only working as an actor but also as a producer and stuff like that too. And then finding out, oh, his parents, both of his parents' side has the rare occurrence of him getting that that disease to happen at a later life, because he's like his genetics are more prone to it. And then finding out that he got it got the results actually filming during his TV show Limitless on Disney Plus. That even's more of a heartbreak, because as he's filming it and getting these results read to him, you could tell that he is just at a lost words. And again, he's like in his like early 40s now, I think, or yeah, early 40s now. And then you have to, and then it's basically saying, hey, by the way, maybe in like 20, well, not 20 years, like maybe in 30, 40 years or so, you got to start experiencing these symptoms, or not even experiencing so far as well. It's like the like a good example of this is Michael J. Fox. For years, he hid his Parkinson's like a lot from, not only from his cast members, until he finally to a point where he literally needed to show, hey, I have Parkinson's disease, and it's like really starting to affect his life. And now he's like at the point where his life where it is still affecting him, he's still able to control what's happening. And that happened when he was like in his 30s. So it's like, imagine you're in your 30s, and then you have like, oh, this disease or this genetic illness or just genetic thing happening to you, and then finally saying, oh, it really takes a lot out of you. And not only that, it's like it, it I'm just gonna keep my mouth, not mouth shut. I'm just gonna keep my mind at bay, because I have it yeah, I have trouble like processing a lot of things with hearing these news is, nowadays.
And that's totally understandable because it's like, I mean, I feel like that's honestly just like we all pretty much have the same reaction Chris Hemsworth had. Like at 39 years old, finding out that like that this is something you're likely going to have to deal with at some point in your life. That is, yeah, it's like just it's like you just got forced into a hard left turn you didn't expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it is interesting for me. I was like, is it that like, can anyone just find out if they have that gene? Like, if so, I'd like to know too.
Hmm.
But it
Well,
is.
he probably knew because like if it was genetics, then like it was probably already in his family, so he probably already had like a knowledge that like that it was that his parents probably had, or maybe his grandparents probably had it.
Okay.
So I'm assuming because of that, that's again, these are just assumptions because I don't know anything for certain, that that could be why he was wanting to like get more info, maybe.
Yeah. From
Yeah,
what
that makes sense.
he said about it, and looking up on an interview, I mean, or article about it, essentially he found out that he wasn't diagnosed, but he has like a heightened risk of having the disease like later in life, especially, not, 10 years ago he thought maybe it'd be like predetermined, but now he's
Mhm.
like finding out more because of, not only science, just general science stuff, like the advances in science, like there may be something that would probably help him, like again 30, 40 years from down the road, where it's just like he doesn't have to like go through the notion of, Alzheimer's and stuff like that too. And I mean, I don't remember any family members who have dealt with that, but looking back on that now, it's like there were probably family members who I've, you know seen over the years who had, who weren't diagnosed, but clearly had symptoms of that, and no one really wanted to tell them or say, yeah, it's like, hey, maybe you should go to the hospital and check everything out, or
Mhm.
because again,
Mhm.
that's definitely a disease that basically not only affects your mind, but also affects, your uh, uh, essentially everything. Like, if it basically traps your mind in a more, yeah, just basically traps your mind in a very nightmarish thing where you don't know what's happening. You forget things, and then,
Mhm.
your memories aren't as what they used to be, and then, imagine being a grandfather when you're in your 60s, 70s, and then not remembering what your grandchild's name is. So I can understand him being very hesitant to not only take break from acting, but also just to be more there with his family and everything else. Because again, it's like he literally just started producing stuff too, and he literally just produced like a movie that his wife starred just on Netflix, and that ended up being like maybe one of Netflix's like highest rated uh, movies in terms of like being watched and everything. So yeah,
Is
uh,
it that's the one where she's on the boat
yeah, that's the one where I think she's like maybe she's like some cop
on the
on
ship?
board, I think. Yeah, so
Oh, okay, I heard of it. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't watch it, but
Okay.
I've heard it being like, oh, it's like one of Netflix's biggest like one of Netflix's biggest surprise hits, essentially.
Mhm.
Mm. Okay.
And
Okay. Um.
and speaking of Netflix and streaming services, let's talk about something very humorous. So Bob Iger is now Charles of Disney again. How, you may ask? Well,
Right.
Bob Chapek got ousted. I know this is a very odd segue, Brian. You went from talking about death, grieving, odd placement with Alzheimer's, and now you're talking about streaming services. Well, and although people have been saying that streaming services are dying out because of the way of how many streaming services there are currently. I mean, there's like literally like 30, like 30 streaming services that I probably know of, and that's not even including the ones that aren't that are just coming out in the next few months or a few years or whatnot. But yeah, an odd segue. But yeah, so Bob Iger, former CEO of Disney, has come back into power after Bob Chapek, the then current CEO of Disney, was essentially not really taken out, but more or less fired, and then, or just like his position was let out. But it's like people have been trying to figure out what's been happening with this, because it's definitely a very weird case, because no one is sure what is going on at Disney, specifically with Chapek, because like he literally just signed a 3-year contract extended to in his like contract back in June, right? Darren, I think. I think he might be off for a
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, he definitely his contract was renewed for another 3 years. I know that much, but for any other reasons, I don't know. Like it's weird that I guess you would kind of it's a slap in the face, honestly, if you
Yeah,
are like guaranteed some money and under a contract which is legally binding, if anything. And I guess they can just undo that because they're not happy. And I guess he has nothing to
yeah.
do. He can't do anything about it. He can't sue them. He can't fight back legally. He can't, I don't know, complain to anyone. So, yeah.
You don't mess with the mouse. You get the
Yes,
ears.
essentially. Uh, but what I mean for the past few months, I mean Chap picks, and I swear if I am mispronouncing this guy's name, I am sorry, but it just looks to how I say it, so it may have a different pronunciation, but I'm sorry. Okay, this is just me. Okay, I'm slightly
And it doesn't
dyslexic.
help that both their names are Bob.
Yes. So in this case, I'll just say, and people have been having fun of using the King Bob meme from Minions as basically Eichner's return. So it's like he is literally King Bob to a lot of people now. So we have Bob Eichner, and then I'll call the other guy Other Bob. So Other Bob has been basically in the news recently over the past, say, year or so over not only Disney being not as happy, not being the happiest place on earth, especially in terms of uh, the theme park. The theme park, from I hear it, and from one of my friends who actually worked at Disney in terms of being a cast member there, they really hated it because of how Check Peck or Other Bob really handled the company in terms of not only uh, just from a financial level, but from a staff member level as well, because a lot of people were not happy working in Disneyland or Disney World, I should say. And people were like, "Oh, it's like it's the happiest place on earth. You should be happy." Well, if your job is mistreating you, then you can't really be happy. I know for a fact. And you can put a fake, you could do it like this and just be like, "Oh, hey, welcome to so and so," all day, and then come and then once you're out of your thing, just go. That smile just goes, just being like, And on top of that, back in what was it, early June, late May, early June, I think it was during Pride Month. Uh, Disney got a lot of flack because of a notion of check pick and basically having almost like a war to war with DeSantis essentially in Florida, not only getting tax stuff with them trying getting tax stuff, but also uh, Disney being very hesitant on not promoting or saying something on the "Don't Say Gay" bill. And then Chad Picker was like, you know what, I'm going to say something about it, especially since it's Pride Month. So, and Disney has prided itself being a very family inclusive environment. So you don't have to worry about like what race or gender identity or what have you when you go into a theme park like Disneyland or World and be like, this is fun for the whole family because in the eyes of the mouse, you are family to those who are coming to see you. And from what I've been hearing, a lot of it of what Other Bob has been doing was very political, and I think a lot of people in the industry, especially in Disney, did not want to see Disney being a political machine, even though at any point in time, the Walt Disney Company could become like one of the biggest Disney powerhouses, one of the most biggest powerhouses in political nature if they decide to actually go into that realm of politics. But they don't because again, if you're in Hollywood, politics are something that are very hard not to talk about because you don't want to pick sides and you just want to be neutral. I think in Disney's case, they wanted to be as neutral as they can be by supporting, whatever party it was or whatever thing it is, and not have this, and not have, stuff happen like that too. And on top of that,
Well, hasn't Disney like donated money to like Republican
yeah, yeah,
politicians?
yeah, that they
So it's like
have.
they're
Yes.
already technically, so that's the thing, even though they say they're not, wanting to get political, they're
Yeah.
technically participating in it anyway, though. So
Yeah,
which
they are.
doesn't surprise me, the hypocrisy, because they'll say, "Hey, we support all our LGBTQ, people who work here," but not in Florida, we don't.
Yeah, or China. So
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, or any other country that doesn't allow that.
Oh,
Like how, and
I'm
also how
sorry.
they purposely make movies where they can cut out any LGBTQ representation.
Yeah, they're
I'm
very
sorry. This
strategic
wasn't.
about that.
I apologize. This was not back in May. This was back in March. May, March, same letter, just 2 months apart. Uh, but yeah, yeah, there was just a hypocrisy about Disney funding the people behind, the Don't Say Gay bill or something like that, or just being Republicans in general, especially since Florida, Florida being a very red state, and Disney World being in, no, no, is it Disneyland in the Highwood, or is it Disney World in Florida?
I never can get I get the two
Yeah, I
mixed up all the
always mix
time.
this up too.
All right, so I'll just
I
say
think
Disney.
world is Florida, land
Okay.
is LA. I don't.
I think
I'll,
that sounds right.
for
Yeah.
convenience sake, I'll just say Disney Florida being, what I mean in Disney Florida, and Disney Highwood being, what I mean in Disney Highwood. Now, Florida being a very red state, and California being a very blue state, I think, blue reddish, but basically primarily from right here, very primarily Democratic from right here. So, and and I think this is also from the fact that Disney has been getting a lot of shilling from a lot of people, not only in the LGBTQ community, not only with the mishandling of characters and just stuff handle of just trying to include, and like in the inclusion, and then someone's like, oh, by the way, we just happen to be supporting that thing. I think what Chapek was trying to do was trying to put his foot down and actually show, hey, we do care about the, we do care. It's just that yes, we have had dealings of that in the past, but we don't want to be that going forward. And I think over the course of, say, the past several months or so, Disney's thing has been slowly slowing going down, especially in terms of stocks. Because before Eichner actually went back to into power, their stocks were like at an all time low, and then when Eichner was put back into power, their stocks went all the way back up. So it just shows you like how much faith the Disney brand really had with the Bob.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't think I have much to say on what I pretty much just said already.
Yeah, it's like there again, Disney hypocrisy. There's always been like a Disney hypocrisy, and
hmm
and
And also, funny enough, it's like actually, I don't think about it. Look at their recent show, Andor. Like that's arguably probably one of the most political kind of like content the Star Wars has actually made and actually done well, and not just like doing it just for the sake of doing it.
I didn't see Andor. How is it? You saw it?
Yeah, I've been watching it and like it is good. Like
Okay.
it is one of the best like new Star Wars content to come out from
Okay.
Disney.
Good. Good. Good.
Like it very much is more like of a mature show
Okay.
being a Star Wars universe, and it has that like I kind of equate the pacing to being something akin to like what you see in Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Really?
hmm
Okay. Okay. Now, now I'm on board. I'll probably check it
okay,
out.
so
But to
and
chime in,
also like they don't use the volume from what I've noticed. They use a lot
yeah,
more like practical sets.
yeah, the shoot on location. I heard that part. That's good. Yeah.
Mhm.
and back to Disney Plus. So basically, and this is what the concerns of what people's been talking about with Chepek, and essentially he had given priority to the Disney Plus business at the expense of other parts of Disney, like cable television and the theme parks, because apparently he was kind of concerned about the theme parks raising their prices in terms of going to see Disney. You know, it's like, oh, I want to go to Disney Florida, and then find out their prices are like, you know, $200 a day just to get tickets or something like that. And he's kind of like concerned about what's with the overpricing. And
Mm.
apparently that was a way to like apparently he said that he was alarmed by the increases of price at Disney theme parks that he argued would boost revenue and limited overcrowding. First off, have you been to a Disney place? When has it not been overcrowded?
That's
Maybe
literally in the brochure when you get your tickets to go there, pretty much. You know it's going to happen.
so. In order to boost revenue and limit overcrowding, increase the prices. Okay, I can understand why the board of directors were mad at that, but from what I hear, Disney Plus being more of a focal point instead of the theme parks or the cable TV, i.e., the Disney Channel or Disney Junior or whatever channels they have as Disney adjacent. Uh, you have that. You have that. Saying, "Hey, I want to put the focus on Disney Plus being more of the business side," and a lot more people were kind of concerned because it leads to apparently this leads to another point. This article says that he was too responsive to the changes in share price, meaning probably. And I'm not really a stock person, but I imagine Disney's shareholdings kept on going up and down because of the recent amount of changes this guy has been going throughout the since taking power for the past 2 years. Like I said, uh, his reign in Disney has been very up and down, and a lot of what this article has also said is also Chempik was way too eager to lay off vast numbers of cast members during COVID, during the first phase of the COVID pandemic, which is kind of like I was furlonged from my job. I thought I'd be back, but I was never officially back because when my job officially came back, anybody who had recently worked there had to reapply and do that again. So being fired from Disney and then finding out that the overwork shift that you just been on, because again, because my friend basically had said that they worked a lot of overwork shifts, and they worked in the not the hotel part of the theme park, that like hotel you usually go to stay for the night or whatever it is. And they will be very overworked, and it's like, to cut costs, you just basically fire the people who you don't see fit. It's like I can understand why Disney's like, we really need to get Eichner back, because with Eichner, not only did Disney get Fox, but Disney also got Marvel and a few other things. So to them, the board of directors, even though Eichner is literally on he literally said, "I'm on a borrowed set of time. You only have me for 2 years, and I'm out again." Sure. We'll see how that works.
In 2 years, just wanted to make more money.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Disney just wants to make more money. Specifically, since what you've mentioned before, I think what you have pointed out before is that the Disney products, specifically on Disney Plus, have not been making as much content as they thought it was, as much as the content as they wanted to have originally.
Well, they've been making a lot of content. The problem is like the quality of it isn't that good.
Yeah, and
like they only make 6 episodes of a show where they actually don't format it in a way that actually fits the show you're doing. Like you make a show that's supposed to be about this character, but then you clearly make it like you spend more time with other characters, where it seems like, oh, you clearly want to do a show with other characters instead of this character, but you couldn't get a show for them yet, so you got to do it here.
Are you talking about Kenobi?
Yeah, pretty much.
I caught up.
Yeah, another article pointed out that a lot of Disney Plus originals were shifted over to the Disney Channel to I guess create more program for the Disney Channel. It's like, oh hey, you don't have Disney Plus, but you have the Disney Channel. So here's some programming that has been on the Disney Plus programming, and say, hey, here's something you can watch with your family, even though even though you don't have paid the $8 or something like that. Like that's like, I mean, to me, that's actually a good idea because uh, Netflix, for the most part, every so often I would see like a Netflix show on like cable television, like BoJack Horseman. Like I think over the summer was on Comedy Central, and they were originally playing from
Yeah.
the first episode over to the last episode, I think. Uh, Narcos is on Pluto TV every now and then. They have like this whole. You can either watch like a whole like season's worth or like something that is considered to be like maybe 4 or 5 episodes on another random channel, like maybe like some crime channel or something like that. And this is something from Netflix. There's something from Netflix. I won't be surprised if, say, like maybe 5 years from now, Stranger Things will be on, like, say, another
Like sci-fi.
on Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah, on some Sci-Fi Channel. Like it really get and this isn't really new too. DC has done the same thing for Titans and Doom Patrol on TNT. Like every so often, you were just like, oh, to release with the new season of Titans having coming out, and I don't really watch Titans because I don't really care about that show. But before each new season, they had premiered the previous season beforehand as a way for people to say, oh yeah, we have a new show coming out. It's on HBO Max. It's a DC product. Here we go. Here, watch the previous season in its full entirety. Every week or
And
so.
speaking of new content,
What? We
I
have new
gave you the
content.
segue, man. I gave you the segue, man.
Oh, and speaking of new content, and probably
It's
one of
it's been a while. We're rusty.
yeah, and speaking of new content, and the reason why Other Bob was probably ousted is Disney is releasing one of. Oh, and thank you for telling me that I was going to that was going off the rails. Thank you, Hayden. That was a nice way of saying, "Hey, Bryan, you're going off the rails." Uh, uh, but yeah, speaking of new content, we have a new Avatar movie coming. God knows why, but that may have been another reason why Eichner was put into power because he could probably see a much more financial way of making Avatar: The Way of the Water a financial successful movie because the previous movies that he was financially successful in were under his reign were uh, The Force Awakens and Endgame. Uh, No Way Home was under Chapek's role, but if uh, the way the water happens to be so successful, and I'll get to the reason why it has to be so successful because apparently it is hilarious to think about. It may lead into why Chapek was released in the first place, is because you have this mega budgeted movie coming out, right? Box office box office has to be spectacular. Its budget was ballooned to like $250 million, which is as close as Endgame's budget, which was like at least like 280 million. I mean, not 275 million, something like that. That still hasn't been the Disney record of the closest expensive movie, which is like one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I think maybe either on Stranger Tides or either the third or fourth movie. I forgot which one. But yeah, the idea is that in order to break bank for Avatar: The Way of the Water, it has to, and I kid you not, has to at least gross close to 2 billion at the box office.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's never gonna happen. I mean, it could happen, but it's not likely to happen. And if that's just to break even, that means the movie cost at least 1 million. I mean, like $1 billion. It would cost at least $1
And
billion to make that.
Yeah, James Cameron, Timothy. What?
I think it was my exact reaction too, because I mean, if they are talking about all the four, I mean, all the three movies that they filmed back to back to back, which is probably the same budget for all three movies. If Way of the Water had a budget of like $250 million, then chances are Avatar 3 had the same budget and Avatar 4 had the same budget. So you have something that's like
Hmm.
close to $1 billion of what Jim Cameron calls a very fucking expensive movie. Then I can understand why they say, "Oh yeah, by the way, in order to break even, they have to this new three trilogy thing has to at least get close to 2 billion in the box office."
Yeah,
And
I mean, I get it. I get it to a point. Like, especially if what you said is true, like all the movies are already filmed and ready to go. They're just releasing them, I guess, a year apart. I don't see how one film would have to gross 2 billion. I can see if the films come out and they're released and everything, and then they add it up after all the releases are done, and then that total grossage came out to around 2 billion, then that would make more sense. So in that case, he probably could make that money back. But again, to like I guess have all these movies just like with all this money, just I don't know. And the way business works with movies too, it's interesting because there's a lot of like investors and tax incentives and all these things that go into making movies. So sometimes if things get cheaper or like, and then there's also like over labor of visual effects artists and stuff like that. So, but the movie looks good though. I'll say that money well spent, James. It
yes,
looks really good, and
Yes, James,
hopefully,
it's a good visual effects movie where the story is just cookie cutter.
yeah.
like
And
I
it is
joked,
Just going
animated.
off your first one.
It is
I literally,
animated. Like I don't know why he doesn't like the word animated, but it's 100% animated. It's a live
Mhm,
action animation. So
exactly.
I joked
you
about
can
this
get mad at that.
before. I joked about this before you came in, before you arrived, Darren. But I joked that basically Jim Cameron basically walked up into the Disney office with a bucket full of water and just basically said, "That's Avatar 2, Way of the Water."
That's funny.
Uh,
Yeah, and also the fact that he needs to be 2 billion, like I'm just thinking, did James Cameron just have like a poker match with the executives at Disney and he just kept losing so bad that he was just like, okay, look, this is my last hand. If I win, we make all these movies. We're and I promise it'll cover the 2 billion I lost to you. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine. He's probably got crappy cards anyway. And then it turns out he had a royal flush.
No, I mean,
And then, well, looks like we're making four Avatar movies.
no, I honestly that probably was likely, but James Cameron does have a good track record of his films being like original and very it resonates with audiences a lot. So he's very good at making
I
blockbusters.
mean,
So that's a non-factor for him.
I
But
think
this the sequel though.
Mhm.
I think in James Cameron's case, he's being very fictitious or facetious, I should say, and because he basically said, in all honesty, that he has to be this movie has to be at least the third or fourth biggest box office, and like fourth biggest, like the fourth or fifth biggest box office smash in history. And I'm looking at the top five already. You have Avatar, you have Endgame, you have Titanic, you have The Force Awakens, you have Infinity War, and then you have No Way Home, Jurassic World, The Lion King from 2019. Like, if you manage to even beat, in all honesty, I can see it dethroning the level where No Way Home is right now, because No Way Home has like $1.9 billion at the box office, right? And maybe the same thing with Infinity War. But come on, Jim, you're expecting a blue alien to go and win against Star Wars: The Force Awakens, like the highest grossing Star Wars movie of all time.
And
I mean,
Endgame.
and then Endgame as well. And then just to have
And
your
essentially have to top his blue aliens with his new blue aliens.
yes, So, I mean, I know Cameron can be very arrogant and very smug sometimes, but come on, man, just dial it back sometimes. You don't have to be full on Jim Cameron every now and then.
Yeah, just take a break from James and be Jimothy. It's fun.
And speaking of breaks, I hope you all enjoyed the break time that we had. I really hope you all enjoyed the break that we had from doing this show because now we're kind of like back in business now. It may be every week, it may be 2 weeks. I have no idea because again, we all go by our schedules. I'm busy because of work. Darren's busy because he's always producing something. Hayden's always busy because he's always writing a TV show that he recently. Oh, and speaking of TV shows, he recently got that baby in a script piling thing. So congrats on him. One of the best news I heard over the summer, for that summer, was basically hearing, "Oh, hey, I got this.
Yeah, congrats.
I had this pilot
Thank you.
TV show I've been working on. I put it into a screenwriting thing, and then a few months
Which
later,
one?
Oh, the Screencraft TV pilot competition. Currently a quarterfinalist in that one.
Oh, nice.
And
Congratulations.
thank you.
I'd like to read it one day.
Oh yeah, I'll send it your way.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
And I've actually sent this script like a bunch of different competitions. So like
Nice.
I've literally got like a whole spreadsheet of like dates of like, okay, here's what I'm expecting to hear from such and such.
Nice.
but yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the break from not hearing our voices talk about like random entertainment shit. But oh boy, how I missed talking about random entertainment shit. And to come back at a more interesting time is telling, to say the least. It's literally like that scene from the Force. To tie it back to the Force Awakens. Chewie, we're home. And on that note, please be well, please be safe, and remember, you are always loved and supported. Take care, everyone. Anybody else have like a tagline you want to do before I end it?
Yeah, just yeah, be well out there, everyone, and be kind to each other. Oh wait, the Ellen DeGeneres says that, right?
Yes. Don't want to talk about it. You don't want to like don't want to do Ellen. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yep. Talk to your